Mentally, honestly, I'm in 2026. I'm over this year already. 2025 is coming to an end, and I've been doing a lot of quiet reflection. You know, the kind where you sit with yourself and you realize that some things can go with you to the next year. So this video is about what I'm consciously leaving behind in 2025 and what I'm intentionally bringing into 2026. Hi, welcome to whatever this is. My name is Rotachi. This channel is about faith, fitness, lifestyle, and everything in between. If you're new here, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. Please don't forget to like, to share, and to subscribe. I am going to start with the list of things I am leaving in 2025. At the top of my list is staying in places or environments that cost me my peace. I am leaving behind the habits of remaining in environments, whether it is relational, physical, mental, that cost me my peace. Environments that constantly drain me. I used to tolerate a lot under the idea of endurance or pushing through it, or also out of fear of making a move. But I've learned that peace is not something you earn after suffering long enough. If being somewhere or doing something constantly disrupts my clarity, my joy, or my sense of self, it is not something to overlook or override. From now on, I will choose peace any day, at any time. My peace is going to be paramount. The second thing I'm leaving behind in 2025 is being overly concerned about how I am perceived. I do not live for people's applause or people's approval. However, sometimes I find myself overly worried about the impression that people have about me, whether it's in a conversation, whether it is in my actions, whether it is in how I respond to things. I tend to overthink what people think about me. I tend to over-explain myself. Not because I want to be accepted by people, but because I don't want to be misunderstood. And this constant self-monitoring slows decision-making and overcomplicates the simplest of things. And this year, I came to the realization that being thoughtful doesn't mean I have to freeze in place or I have to slow down my pace. There's always bound to be somebody that will have a difference of opinion about you. And as much as, yes, that is not fair, that's not ideal, there's little or nothing you can do about it. So I'm going to channel my energy into things that are actually more productive for me and think less about people's impressions about me. The third thing I'm leaving behind is fear-based hesitation. Not a fear of people, but a fear of failure. A fear of putting something out there that I do not perceive as perfect or good enough. I'm leaving behind the idea that confidence has to come before action. Sometimes courage is making the move while your hands are shaky. This year, I realized that hesitation disguised as preparation is still hesitation. So I'm going to do it scared. The next thing I'm leaving behind in 2025 is passive coping habits. Doom scrolling, procrastination, laziness that is disguised as comfort. Using distractions to avoid discomfort or uncertainty, or using something to distract myself from reality. Yes, none of these are dramatic, but they quietly steal time, they steal clarity, and they steal momentum. They numb instead of restore, and rest should actually restore and refresh you. So I am no longer confusing avoidance with rest. The fifth thing I'm leaving behind in 2025 is disorganization. Now, this is very personal for me. I like structure. I like a structured plan. I like going to organized and well-organized events. I like planning well-organized functions. However, this doesn't necessarily translate to my physical environment for some reason, especially when I am under stress. When I am under stress, organization feels less like a relief and more like an obligation. However, the deeper I go into disorganization, the more stressed I feel. So it's like this vicious cycle where stress causes the disorganization and the disorganization makes me more stressed. So I want order that quietly does its job in the background so my energy can go towards what actually matters. And disorganization adds stress that I do not need. On the flip side, these are what I'm taking into 2026. Number one, peace as a standard and not a reward. I am no longer postponing my peace until everything works out. Peace is not the end result of productivity. I am going to put myself in positions and in environments that guard my peace. And if something disrupts my peace, it doesn't automatically deserve my endurance. Secondly, I'm choosing movement over perfection. I am not going to wait around for everything to line up perfectly for me to make the move. I am going to have a grounded confidence and I'm going to move visibly, not sporadically, not being loud, not being visible just for the sake of it, but being intentionally visible while also not necessarily being overly fixated on perfection before I put myself out there. The next thing I'm bringing into 2026 is intentional mental input. Less scrolling, more reading, more research, more self-development. What I consume mentally shapes how I think, how I decide, and how I expect outcomes. And I want my inputs to match the life I'm trying to build, not just fill my time. Also, in 2026, I'm going to build a structure that supports discipline. Not necessarily about rigid rules, but a system set up to support me. I'm going to try to have better sleep. If you know me, you know how much my sleep pattern is terrible. Terrible. I'm going to take care of my body better in terms of my diet. I'm going to have more consistent routines. I'm going to introduce physical order that reduces mental noise. Because sometimes to even have some clarity mentally, you need a clear space physically. I'm going to try to be more disciplined and have more self-control and introduce structures in my life that will foster better self-development. The next thing I'm bringing into 2026, which I think is one of the most important things for me, is changing from hoping to expecting. This came to me recently while I was in church. Maybe eventually one day I'll record a video about what actually went down this year. But this year, half of the year, I was in survival mode. Now, they might seem similar, but there's a clear distinction for me at least. Hoping on one end would connote that, there's something you want to happen and cross your fingers, you hope that it eventually happens. Expectation on the other end is not necessarily if it happens, but when it happens. So it's a posture where it is like, it is coming. So it's just a matter of when. The survival mode I was in changed my mentality, my thinking, my prayers into a state where it's like I was hoping, almost wishful thinking. I hope this comes through. For me, expectation doesn't mean I'm being delulu, and it doesn't mean I'm being entitled. For me, it means faith with posture. The last thing I want to bring into 2026, and the most important for me, is having a closer walk with God, involving Him in every single aspect of my life, even in the minute details, even in the minute decisions, even in the mundane things, even in the things that I don't think necessarily warrant a lot of clarity, involving Him in every single step I make, every single decision I take, every single conversation I'm about to have, every single situation I'm about to step into, praying more, meditating on scriptures more. I want to have a stronger prayer life. I want to have a better structured personal time, which is also tied to having a tighter and a better structure for my schedule so it doesn't affect or cascade down to other parts of my life. This is not about me becoming someone new in 2026. It is me letting go of the things that haven't worked and building more on the things that have. And I would like to wrap this up by thanking you for being part of my 2025 journey. Thank you for every share, every like, every comment, every view. Thank you for subscribing to my channel. And if any of these things I said resonates with you, drop a like or a comment. And please do not forget to share. And if you want to continue this journey with me into 2026, subscribe so that we can navigate it together. This has been whatever this is, and thank you for watching. Bye!